let's start off with the Black Meteors campaign, because it's been interesting. Coach Ibrahim Tanko has apologized to Ghanaians. He says that they were clearly not good enough, but a lot of questions have been raised. Edwin, let me start off with you. I mean, when we were going into that game against Guinea, first of all, what were you thinking? What were you thinking our chances were? And when we crashed out, what have your thoughts been since?
Look, going into the game against Guinea, the one thing that was on my mind was there was no way we can be worse than we were against Morocco, because we were terrible in that game. And they actually proved me wrong. Against Guinea, against a team that is basically on our level, you can say the Moroccans are the toughest team you could possibly face at such a tournament. But against Guinea, a team that we are supposed to match boots for boots, they actually played us off the pitch. And we were the ones who needed a result to go through.
True.
So it was disappointing to see them perform the way they did. After the game, a lot has been made of the GFA's involvement, whether we took the right players, the coach and his influence, what he did during the game, the players themselves. And I think that there's a whole lot. And I feel there are three different reasons why we didn't qualify in this tournament. First, discipline of the players. Absolutely terrible on the pitch. Sometimes you need a lot of discipline when you are taking on tactics like pressing, when you are defending, in midfield, when you are passing. I didn't see any of that throughout the tournament.
And just to even add to that, Asamoah actually referenced this in a post. For him to actually say that, I thought that was actually pretty damning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll go to the second reason, which is the manager, of course, the coach. You have to give him some of the blame, because everyone praised him after the first game, where he made a few tweaks, got the team playing again. But I think throughout the tournament overall, it's been a mess from him. The third thing is you have to mention the lack of key technical personnel, a psychologist for the team. It's absolutely crucial. I don't know if we have that one in the team. I doubt it, because
Prof. Minta used to be a generic psychologist for the national teams. I'm not sure if he travels with the specific teams.
You need to have a person in the team with the squad at all times, because players have different psyches going into tournaments. There are players who don't play for their teams regularly, who come into this tournament looking to prove something. And when you come into a tournament just hoping to play for yourself, it doesn't work out for the team. You need a psychologist to dig into these motivations, mindsets, going into games which are pretty key, like the last game against Guinea.
And also even holding leads.
Exactly.
It's a thing from the Black Stars level right up onto this level.
Exactly. And when you go into a game against Guinea where you need to win, you need your players to be up on their A game mentally, physically, and I don't think they were mentally. After they scored the goal, they seemed to just lose focus. The Ghanaians took over the game, and the second half it was pretty much worse. And after they conceded, I didn't see a way back for them into that game. And it's sad to see, because 4 years ago, we didn't make it to the Olympics. But that team was more exciting than the one we saw here. And it's sad to see how much...
And we made it to, what, third place game?
Then we lost some penalties. That's fine. It's sad to see how much we've regressed in 4 years, even under the same head coach, same GFA, and it's just terrible to see that we will not be at another Olympics games.
2004, since 2004. That's the last time the Black Stars were at the Olympics. Was Yusuf Chipsa, I think.
Yusuf Chipsa, Samoa Jan, Bafojan, Stephen Appiah, William Thierry.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they were in that team.
I don't know the last time I set eyes on William Thierry.
William Thierry was in the
retired.
Emmanuel Obuo.
Stephen Appiah's son is almost playing pro football now, and we still haven't made it to the Olympics. Let's check out the highlights of that particular game, Guinea versus Ghana. It ended 1-1. In the end, it was not good enough to get Ghana to the next stage. Welcome back to Scorecard. Yeah, let me take your thoughts on a few things. So, Tanko's competence has come into sharp focus. Also, there's the bit about quality of players. So, some people make the argument that the other national teams are way ahead of us, and we can't expect to compete when there's a talent gap. And then there's also the Tanko bit about if he's good enough, because he took us to the third spot the last time. He couldn't make it. It was this close to making it, and now we've retrogressed by a really crazy, margin. Where do we go from here? Where do we lay the blame?
We can lay the blame at the doorstep of so many people because right from the get-go, things went off. You look at the communication mishap, and that's the reason why a guy like Felix Afenajan wasn't part of this team. That's the reason why a guy like Kamaldeen Sulemana wasn't part of this team.
Would they have made a difference?
They would have made a difference because at the Black Stars level, clearly they are not cutting it at the Black Stars level. But at this point, at this level, I honestly believe they would have been able to cut it. And it shows because you look at a guy like Fatau Shahaku, at the Black Stars level, he doesn't cut it. And his performances have been consistently poor. But at the under-23 level, yes, he had a poor tournament in this one, but it's clear that his performance is way better when he plays at the under-23 level than at the Black Stars level. So clearly, had those two guys and other players who were eligible to also play for the Black Meteors been available, I honestly believe that had the communication been better, they would have been able to come in and improve the overall quality in the team. Then you have to look at the call-ups. Some of the call-ups were a bit questionable in the sense that, okay, yeah, you brought in some players, but if you are going to invite someone from the local side or from the local scene, how is it that you omit a centre-back who helped Midiama to win the Bet Power Ghana Premier League in Nuruddin Abdullahi? How is it that, and looking at our performance in this tournament, looking at the kind of goals we conceded, clearly we had a problem in central defense. When you look at...
We looked nervy. Every time opponents attacked us, we looked like we would concede a goal.
Yes. You look at on the wings, we didn't have enough depth in the front line. You look at a guy like Bechem United's Clinton Diodu. He's one of the best young players on the local scene. How is it that this guy missed out on a call-up to the Black Meteors? And so you look at all these things, it makes you question how this team was even put together. Then you have to look at Coach Ibrahim Tanko as well. Is the motivation right? Is the motivation on point? Because at this point in time, what I know is that the coaches of the national teams, aside the Black Stars and the Black Queens head coaches, they haven't been paid for...
They have no contracts.
They haven't been paid for a very long time. And so this opens the door to a lot of questions. How is it that you are still opposed when you're not getting paid?
How are you motivating yourself to do the job?
How are you motivating yourself to do the job? So all these raise questions. And Ibrahim Tanko, in terms of the organization, that's where it disappointed me. And in his post-game press conference, after we drew with Guinea, he highlighted the same thing I've been highlighting consistently ever since this tournament started: concentration. That after Ghana scored, we messed up in terms of concentrating in the game. And for me, that's just not good enough. The coach has to take blame for that because it is your job.
Does he lose his job?
Oh yes, he definitely loses his job. But
this was his chance.
This was his chance because at the end of the day, you had one job to do. You couldn't get the job done. The performance, which could have been some sort of defense, also didn't go your way because we were terrible. Our performance was flat out terrible. We couldn't pass the ball, couldn't sustain possession.
No identity, no pattern.
No identity, no pattern in terms of how we attack, how we defend. Look at the organization, especially in that game against Morocco. So wide open in the middle. So for me, honestly, there were a lot of things that went wrong. And there are a lot of people and individuals that we have to lay the blame game at.
I'll just say this to conclude on this matter. I feel like a lot of this is at the heart of structure and a lot of this at the heart of teaching. Now, structure basically because Coast football has been all over the place. The league barely ever gets finished. People have complained about it. Nothing happens. Also, coaching. I think that we have a big deficiency with coaching. This is not even just a football thing. With athletics, with boxing, how well trained are our coaches? How much updated are they in terms of modern trends of the game? And are they up there? I mean, I'm just looking around at the local scene and I'm asking myself, when was the last time that a local coach took up a job outside the shores of this country, a credible job outside the shores of this country. Look at a guy like Pitso Mosemani. Goes to Al Ahly Football Club, does a good job there, heads to the Gulf. He's in high demand. I mean, if he's without a job, you know for a fact that it's deliberate. But I feel like down here, it's just a recycle.
Yeah. And the structure is needed
to coaches.
We'll get a Maxwell Konedu, we'll get an Anna Walker, we'll get a
and the structure is needed to be able to guide and train the talent. You touched on talent. Look, let no one lie to any of us. Talent, we have it. We have it in abundance. But it's the way you refine the talent. The talent is there. It's in its rawest form. But if you don't refine it, you won't be able to get the true benefits from that talent. It's just like our natural resources, gold and what have you. We take it in this raw form, we take it outside, they refine it and bring it back to us, and we end up paying extra money to get it.
Everything. Our gold is still in this raw form.
Exactly. So that's the same thing that we do with our we've been doing with our football. If we don't refine the talent can get you so far.
Look, I just think that with the coaching thing, right, and I just will end on this. It's crazy because if you look at certain nations, there's a reason why they don't or they barely ever hire other nationals to coach their national teams. It barely ever happens.
Because there's an identity.
That national team. You're not going to see an Englishman or a German coaching the Dutch national team. It doesn't matter. If you look at the German national team, they are barely ever going outside the shores of their country to go and hire anybody else. And from the way we are going, I look at Ghana 10, 15 years, 20 years from now, and we'll still be hiring expatriates to coach our teams. I feel like there needs to come a point where if you're hiring these big coaches to come to do football in your country, and Avram Grant, he needs to leave an imprint. If you are hiring a Chris Hughton to coach your team, he needs to leave an imprint. There must be a point where our national teams don't go to foreigners any longer. It's not as if I'm xenophobic towards foreigners handling our teams, but these are what serious nations do. I'm just saying.
Exactly, and I feel that our strongest period as a national team, the Black Stars, came after the success of the under 20 team. We have failed to improve our young teams consistently. Under 17, under 20, under 23.
And guess who won that tournament? It was a local coach.
It was a local coach. Yet we've not built on that. Recently, our national team is suffering because the youngsters who were supposed to take over are not being trained well enough, are not being motivated well enough, so they are also faltering. And once we keep that cycle going, I think the national team continues to suffer.
It's a big question. If we say an outfit like Right to Dream Academy is training and churning out brilliant talent, how is it that at the junior level we don't have a prominent contingent of Right to Dream Academy players? Why is it that we don't have a prominent contingent of WAFA? The teams that have the right structure at the juvenile level, how is it that we don't have a high number of those academy players in our junior national team?
Those are questions for the national team handlers to be answered, because honestly, I think that it's actually still a miracle that based on how we've been handling our football, we are still even able to compete, because the rate at which
that's the talent
the countries
level. Because the talent
DNA is great, but we are obviously
it can only get you so far.
Probably be stuck in the mud at a point. Let's